Good evening, Dark Horse Nation. I hope you guys have had a great end to your week. Here it is, Friday, July 3rd, 2026. It has been another hot day here at the studio, and down at the hut it broke another 104 degrees, so it's hot. And as I sit out here at the swing now making this video, I am sweating, and the only thing I'm doing is just sitting here and talking. So the reason I'm making this video today, guys, history is such an important part of who and what we are as a nation. And tomorrow we will be celebrating 250 years of independence. This nation is still a very young nation compared to other countries around the globe. Example, Italy, India, Egypt. We are very, very young, guys. So Britain, as far as history goes, was involved with the region that became the United States for 176 years. And it began with the first permanent English settlement at Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. And it ended when the Treaty of Paris formally recognized America's independence in 1783. So it just didn't happen overnight. It was a process, and it was many, many years of strife, tears, bloodshed, sacrifice. So the American Revolution actually went from 1765 up until 1783. And that was an era of political, social, and military conflict in which 13 North American colonies broke from British rule. England, back in that time period, when English people first came to this country, they were trying to escape poverty. England was overcrowded. They wanted to practice their own religious convictions. They wanted to get away from the Church of England. And they just wanted a new way of life. And so they came to this country, and they were under the thumb of the crown for a very, very long time, guys. But as time went by, the new world people, they wanted change, and they were tired of having to kneel to the king. So in 1765, March, the Stamp Act was put in place, and that's where Britain imposed the first direct tax on the colonies. And the colonists resisted with the cry of no taxation without representation, and that's where that came from. And how many of us today feel that the taxes we pay are unfair and we are not represented? How many taxes are paid on the same dollar bill as it changes hands? How many times will you pay property tax on a car that's 10 years old, isn't worth shit? How many? Something to think about. So that's when things started, guys. Then in March of 1770, you had the Boston Massacre. And that's where British soldiers shot into a mob in Boston, and they killed 5 colonists. And that just left a bad taste in the masses here in the New World. Then December of 1773, you had the Boston Tea Party. And that was in defiance of the Tea Act. And that's where colonists dumped chests of British tea into Boston Harbor. But that prompted harsh punitive measures by Parliament. So, you know, England was going to make them pay the price for that. Now today, if Americans did the same thing, you'd be labeled an insurrectionist or even a terrorist, and that's the world we live in today. Then in September of October 1774, the First Continental Congress, delegates from 12 colonies meet in Philadelphia, PA, to orchestrate a unified boycott of British goods. So you know how well that went over with the Crown. Not very well. And then it finally come down to an outbreak of all-out war, and then that's where America decided it wanted to have its own independence. So in April of 1775, the battles of Lexington and Concord took place, and that was fought in Massachusetts. And that was the military opening of the Revolutionary War. January 1776. Thomas Paine publishes his influential pamphlet arguing for American independence. So they were flaming the fire, or he was at that point in time, guys. They was getting that road started. Then in July of 1776, the day that we are going to celebrate tomorrow, July 4th, the Second Continental Congress officially adopts the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That didn't necessarily mean that we were free to leave Britain. In December 1776, the Battle of Trenton. That is when General George Washington leads a surprise attack on Hessian forces in New Jersey after crossing the icy Delaware River. And that is the most famous portrait that you see of George Washington today. And then things began to change. October 1777, the Battle of Saratoga. We had a major American victory in New York that secured vital military and diplomatic support from France. And right there, that was a key change in the way things turned out. The winter of 1777, 1778, Valley Forge. Washington's army endures a brutal winter encampment in Pennsylvania. But after surviving that, they returned from that a more disciplined fighting force. And then in February 1778, France officially recognized the United States and agrees to a treaty of alliance which turned the rebellion into a global war. That was a game changer. October 1781, Siege of Yorktown. Combined American and French force traps General Charles Cornwallis in Virginia, which forced a decisive British surrender that ends major fighting on the continent. Then in September 1783, the Treaty of Paris came about. At that point in time, Great Britain officially recognizes the United States as an independent and sovereign nation. Then September of 1787, delegates meet in Philadelphia to draft the United States Constitution, replacing the weaker Articles of Confederation. And that was the start of what we have today. Those were the building blocks that have made America. Those are the building blocks that made America a great nation across the entire planet. Yes, we are a very young nation compared to old world countries. But our ideals and our love of freedom and love of God, that makes the difference in how we perceive what our lives should be. So I was sitting here today, guys, hoping for a real pretty sunset, and obviously it's not going to happen today. I'm sitting out here sweating bullets that the humidity is horrible. And I just wanted to share some of that history with you guys. A lot of that stuff, basic stuff, yes, they cover it sometimes in school, and a lot of details are left out. But every American should know the history. So that being said, I hope each and every single American and immigrant and anyone who comes to this country for freedom and for a better life, Independence Day is for all of you, for all of us. And as long as you stand up and salute that American flag, then you have a right to be here, as long as you defend that flag. No other flag matters. It's the American flag that matters. So that being said, guys, I'm going to give every one of you guys a happy 4th of July toast. And I am happy to be an American, and I am happy to be free, and I appreciate the sacrifices of every man and woman and individual that ever sacrificed their lives in the name of freedom. So guys, this right here is for y'all. I might have a sip of that. What do we say, Dark Horse Nation? Damn, that's good. Guys, be safe, be blessed. And I'm going to show you up here in a second what it's all about. You guys take care this holiday weekend.